future work is not in the future. The future work is already here. So we should stop talking about the future of work as it's maybe going to happen. It is already happening.
When it comes to organization success, we know that people agenda is on top of everything. Talent as a currency is the biggest currency that one can use in organization success. Yet, we find that when it comes to boardroom, the number of HR professionals or the topic of human capital or talent is not as visible as it should be. What can we do about it? Can we explore that topic? Can we look at how can we elevate the agenda of people into the boardroom as well? Today, we have a fantastic speaker who is joining us to talk about exactly this topic. Fermin Diez, who is a very well known HR influencer, but not only that, he's also part of multiple different forums, right from Singapore Institute of Directors, IHRP, SHRM, and author of multiple different books. We are going to talk to Fermin today about how can we elevate the people agenda and take it to the level where it belongs. That is the boardroom. Fermin, so good to have you on this show. I'm really excited about our conversation. I've known you as the HR thought leader. I've known you from the Singapore Institute of Directors. And in both the space, the role you are playing today is absolutely fantastic for people like us to look forward to and learn from you.
Thank you for having me, KP.
Fantastic. At Board Matchup, we are really trying to create an ecosystem which could help people who are aspiring board members, people who are looking at being advisors with organizations, people also who want to work in a interim fractional kind of ecosystem. And I think personally that that's also the future of work. I've seen you talking about future of work in multiple different dimensions. So I would love to start by getting your views on the future of work and where do you see this going, which direction? All the more in today's geopolitical environment, we are seeing AI as the big force coming forward, and a lot of people very worried about that. So let me start by asking you to provide your perspective for the audience on the topic of future of work.
Well, that in itself could take a whole podcast, but I'll try to give you my summarized view. My first point is that the future of work is not in the future. The future of work is already here. So we should stop talking about the future of work as it's maybe going to happen. It is already happening. And the future of work has to do with the fact that people nowadays graduating from universities are not really getting full-time jobs. They're getting contracts. And that people who are 55 and above are typically not getting hired to do full-time jobs, but maybe contracts or even gigs. That most people don't think of their careers as joining a company and staying for any length of time. They think of a career as skills that I acquire along the way as I move from company to company, job to job, and industry to industry. So the future of work has to do with hybrid work models where you can work remotely from home, from anywhere. There's some pushback these days about companies wanting people to be back at work for productivity reasons, but I find that as long as there are companies doing it one way and companies doing it another way, then employees will be choosing whether they prefer to work from office or prefer to work from home. And I think that it's not the future of work, that is the today of work. That will have many implications on the way we design HR policies and programs, on how we recruit and how we train and how we develop, how we promote, how we pay. For instance, there's this perception that bonuses are necessary to drive performance. However, the gig workers don't have bonuses. So how is it that full-time employees need bonuses, but part-time employees do not? So is the answer to give bonuses to part-time employees, or is the answer to give up on bonuses for full-time employees? These are the questions that we need to start asking seriously as we start moving into this new way of working, because old policies don't necessarily support new ways of doing things. Coupled with that is then GenAI. GenAI is the most disruptive thing that has ever happened to the workforce. It is equivalent to what happened when the internet happened. But this one is directly affecting white-collar work. Everything else has affected perhaps blue-collar work. And what's interesting about it is that then HR now has a very interesting conundrum because HR is human resources. So when we talk about AI, AI is not human. So is AI under the purview of HR or not? So this is an interesting question. My answer to that is yes, it is, because human resources really is about how work gets done and what models are we going to follow. And it could be that we're going to get some of this work done with full-time people, some of it with part-time people, some of it with actual machines, call them robots, and some of them with software, call it GenAI. So in the end, the chief people officer perhaps should be renamed as chief productivity officer. And there are already examples of this. One big global example is Moderna, the company that is on the front of vaccines, one of the ones that put together the COVID vaccines, whose global head of HR is also head of IT, because there's clear understanding that AI is going to be a change management problem more than anything else. That is going to be a way to do work problem more than anything else. Lest you think that this is just big companies out there and nothing is happening down in our part of the world, Grab has done the same thing. Grab's head of HR is also head of IT. So that's where I think the future, so to speak, of work, or the today of work is headed. It's just that the models have changed. The HR practices are still lagging behind because we still believe that human resources only refers to human, and even more than that, that human resources mostly refers to full-time employees.
So nice to hear that. And this is really the way you articulated it really puts in perspective that we are not talking about whether it's human or not, it's the resources. So the future talent mix in the organization is going to be people, there will be machines or AI generated activities happening, but also the mix of talent that we spoke about of contractor, full time, part
Mhm.
time, machines, all that coming together. And without change management, without technology, it may be very difficult. And
Yep.
therefore, the future of work is not future, it's happening right now. I just have one question I would like you to kind of expand on that. If I'm a practicing HR leader in an organization, I think there are two things I'm hearing from your talk. One is, what should I do for the organization to be ready? And you gave a great example about bonus, but I'm sure there are many areas. If you can highlight one or two more for that audience. But then also, apart from what I do for the organization, there's a dimension of what do I do as a professional myself, as a HR professional, to become ready for what's changing around me. Any thoughts on that?
Yeah, the biggest thing that companies need to figure out is what is going to be the corporate AI policy, and HR should drive it. The way I think about it is in three concentric circles, so to speak. One of it has to do with how does AI help individuals, and so you see many organizations that are putting Copilot on their machines or some similar tool where people can use it to speed up their email writing or speed up their PowerPoint writing or whatnot. So this is great. That's one way to do it, and you get some productivity out of that. Second way to do it is to start thinking about how can Gen AI and now agentic AI in particular can help improve processes. And these processes can be anything from customer service to accounting to recruiting. So it's a way to think about an entire process and how can you maximize the use of Gen AI in it. You get even more productivity that way. And however, that's when the shift starts to happen because that's when we move from augmenting manpower to replacing manpower. And HR sort of needs to get used to the idea that at least at the top of the organization, the boards and the CEOs are very interested in the question, how many people can we replace, even if HR is not there yet? The third way to think about it is strategic, and this has an even greater implication on HR because strategically speaking, what I now see many organizations doing is giving the strict guideline that there's to be no headcount increase. You can change people, so it's not a hiring freeze necessarily. So you can replace people that don't have the needed skills for people with the needed skills. But headcount freeze basically means with the current cost of the organization, in order for us to achieve growth, we need to do it through GenAI. That strategic thinking is also quite important. And it balances to some degree the notion that maybe I don't need to fire people, which HR is still very dead set against, with the notion that I want to grow and reduce my cost as I grow. So this notion of productivity, very important, which harks back to the point I made earlier about chief people officers becoming chief productivity officers. Now, what does HR need to do, in my opinion, is a mindset shift. It's a mindset shift that says, well, it's not human resources, it's resourcing. It's not people, but productivity. And therefore, I need to think in terms of people that are full-timers, people that are part-timers or contractors, but also technology in the form of either actual machines like robots or actual Gen AI tools that can help improve that productivity. So it's a mindset shift, and it's an entire change management to the whole organization that we are now going to be working with colleagues that may be robots, colleagues that may be software, or colleagues that may be part-timers, right along with the full-timers. That, I think, is where HR needs to get its head around what's happening in this new world where Gen AI and agentic AI is taking over.
How exciting this can be. I mean, I saw some posts on social media literally yesterday which talked about so and so company replacing the entire HR function. And I was just thinking that a lot of sensationalization of the word here, but we have a long way to go in terms of connecting all the dots and doing the right thing. What do you
It
think?
was a recent piece of news that said IBM is replacing their entire recruiting team with AI. And then the answer was, and because we've done that, we can now recruit more and better. That was the CEO of IBM saying that.
So yeah, I think we have a lot of things to see, watch, and be ready for. So thanks for that perspective. Yeah, I mean, I want to change gears now. And I talked about the idea of flexible executive economy. I use that word for so many people, what they call portfolio career. To me, you are a great example and role model of that portfolio career. You are a teacher, you are on the board of SID, you have been helping the fellow members in so many different ways. You're in the council. On the other side, you're also speaker, thought leader, trainer, so many different hats. And I really see that as we go forward, a lot of people would want to kind of emulate that. But I want to go specific into one area where certainly you have played one of the very big role. And as part of your role in Singapore Institute of Directors, you have been probably one of the most vocal spokesperson for the HR fraternity. And we all look up to you as our flag bearer in that respect. But I would love to hear, how do you see the boardroom where people and talent agenda, which to me is the biggest currency for the success of the organization, being represented? I'm not talking yet about the HR person sitting in the boardroom or not, but the people agenda. And I know I've heard you saying that very vocally also. So I would love to hear your view also for the audience. And then followed by, what role do you see HR professionals playing, or how can they actually get to that stage to influence the right people agenda there?
Actually, to me, it's a very simple proposition. One of the main things the boards are there to do is strategy. But strategy is literally just slides on a PowerPoint deck if we don't implement it. And the implementation of strategy is all about people. Okay, now we can say it's all about resources. It's people plus AI plus robots, the same argument we made before. But it is a resourcing agenda. The finance folks should help us figure out if we have the money to invest, but the HR folks should help us figure out if we have the talent to carry it out. And boards, I think, generally shortchange that. It's not as relevant, or we only think that the key people are the CEO and his or her direct reports, and not the rest of the organization. And I think it's a mistake to do that. It's a mistake because most of the time when we see failures, it's not because we lacked money or because the idea was not good. It's because we didn't execute it well. And if we don't figure out our ability to execute before we make the investments, we are doing a disservice to our shareholders. So it's a very simple idea, but somehow it doesn't get carried out. Now, I have two hypotheses as to why this is the case. Hypothesis number one: board members think they know what HR is about. And my second hypothesis is board members think that HR people don't know the business. And so you get a combination of, well, I don't need HR people because I already know HR, but I also don't need HR people because the HR people don't add anything of value to the discussion. I think both of those perceptions are actually not correct. I truly believe that most board members don't know enough HR. And I also believe that HR people could add value to the discussions. Now, is it true that not no board member knows HR? No, not true. There are probably some that are very good at it. Is it true that all HR people will be great on boards? No, that's also not true. There are probably many HR people who truly are not strategic enough to be sitting on a board. However, in the main, because we have these two beliefs that combine, and then we end up shortchanging the whole process. I see it a lot with nomination committees and even remuneration committees. They go through a standard agenda. Let's do the succession plan. Let's do the review of the compensation. The succession plan is mostly done by HR. The compensation is mostly due by external consultants. So they don't really do all that much. And to me, sort of worst case scenario is when consultants do, say, the Remco type of thing is, let's copy what everybody else is doing, which is the typical approach. So you get a benchmark of, my competitors are doing EVA or return on equity or, relative TSR or whatever it is. And therefore, that's what we should be doing, as opposed to really thinking through what is it that our organization needs to achieve the goals that we're trying to do. The second part, I think, on the succession plan done by HR, and I tell you, when I've sat on boards, one of my biggest pet peeves is on year one, you get the succession plan. You don't know any better. So, okay, somebody is ready in 2 to 3 years. And then next year, the same people are in the exact same box, ready in 2 or 3 years. And you say, okay, maybe they were 3 years out and now they're still 2 years out. But then on the third year, you get the same paper and it still says 2 to 3 years. And then you sort of go, listen, this person has been in the same box now for 3 years. What have we done to ensure that they will be ready? So to me, it's quite interesting that succession planning then becomes, again, a salute to the flag. Yes, we've done it, but we haven't really done what we were supposed to do, was to ensure that we have succession ready. So these are the sorts of things that I think that the whole implementation of strategy sort of gets shortchanged. And to be fair, and maybe in the board's defense, too many HR folks go to the board with a single sort of presentation around employee engagement and employee retention, and they create dashboards that just include these two, rather than coming up with the strategic approach of how is it that we're going to retain our key people, or how is it that we're going to invest in some people that will help us grow the business in specific ways. I think that kind of discussion is missing on both sides. I mean, boards should be asking these questions, but HR folks should be bringing up these points.
Your perspective and the way you articulated the hypothesis, and it resonates a lot. I think that's exactly where I see the challenge of perceptions, and therefore some gaps also. Great discussion, but I can't let you go without one question, which I'm sure that all my audience will be very keen to hear, which is basically all the aspiring board members, because we talked about the flexible executive economy. There are a lot of people who are working in different ways, but everyone does want to aspire also to be on boards. Sometime the starting journey is different. Sometimes it's towards a more mature listed board and so on. I would love to hear few nuggets of your wisdom for people who are looking for your inputs on how to get ready for that. how to get ready for being on the board?
Okay, that's actually a very simple answer, and strictly with my SID hat. Best advice I can give to aspiring board members, of course, is to complete all the various courses that we have. If you want to be on a listed company, you also must complete the LED program. Just as a highlight, and back to our HR, do you have any idea, KP, which of the 8 competencies scores the lowest in our current batch of people taking our assessment tests to be accredited directors?
Interesting, but let me take a guess, wild guess. I don't know whether it'll be right or wrong, but I would assume it will be either technology or human capital.
It is human capital by a far margin. And this is why I have data to support the idea that current board members are not as HR savvy as they think they are. Yes, that is the lowest scoring of all the competencies on our competency model. So yes, I think that's the best advice I can give all aspiring directors.
Fabian, thank you so much. This was one of the most profound knowledge one could share in one episode of this. And you also, with your last comment on the competencies, you gave me another reason and also the energy to work on the agenda that we are working towards. I think there's a lot to be done in this space.
Yeah.
Work with the community to support the way portfolio career and flexible executive economy is going. Support people to be able to make the transitions, smoothly, but also build upon how to handhold them to be able to walk through this journey.
Right.
So we keep doing this. We keep on suggesting people SID programs and many other events that we keep hosting at SID. I keep on sharing that also just because I know that many of my audience is keen on that. So thank you for spotlighting that.
Yeah.
And most importantly, thank you for spending the time and being with us today.
And I have an additional agenda point to everything that you just said, which is how do we make more HR people board ready? Because that would solve at least the human capital problem from both sides. You would get more HR expertise on boards, and at the same time, we get more HR people to be board ready.
Thank you so much. Thanks for the time.
My pleasure.